Ambassador Lauder has tirelessly fought against the resurgence of anti-Semitism and has been a global champion of the rights of minorities and the protection of human rights. It's with great pleasure, therefore, that I invite a very strong partner of UNESCO, Ambassador Ronald Lauder, President of the World Jewish Congress.
Your Excellencies, it's made for short people. Your Excellencies, honored guests, shortly after World War II, when the world saw the true horrors of the Nazi death camps, we thought anti-Semitism had finally been wiped out for good. But now, 7 decades later, and 3 generations later, we see how wrong we were. Today, people throughout Europe, frustrated with government or the establishment of the wealthy, once again blame their problems, first on the immigrants, and then on the age-old scapegoat, the Jews. What does that say? That the second leading candidate for president in France's last election was Marine Le Pen, the far-right daughter of a renowned anti-Semite, or that the leader of the Labour Party in Britain and possibly next Prime Minister, Jeremy Corbyn, is an outright anti-Semite. And in Germany, where the straight-arm Nazi salute has been banned since 1945, we watched something last month that we never thought we'd see in that country again. Neo-Nazis marching through the streets of Chemnitz and Dortmund, reaching out their arms and screaming hatred to Jews and attacking a kosher Jewish restaurant. And the police, because they were not instructed what to do, did nothing. It reminds us of 1938, when the police stood by on Kristallnacht while Jews were beaten, store windows smashed, and over 1,000 synagogues burned to the ground. Europe in 2018 is not Europe of 1938, but it's because of what happened 80 years ago that was so horrific, we monitor it constantly. The German police reaction must be forceful. There should be zero tolerance for Nazis in Germany today. This organization, the United Nations, was created in the ashes of World War II. It was built on the broken bones of the Jewish people. So what does it mean that the UN singles out one and only one country for condemnation over and over again? And that one country is the only Jewish state on earth, Israel. Listen to these numbers, but remember, there are many more like it. Between 2012 and last year, the UN General Assembly adopted 124 resolutions against Israel and 26 against the rest of the world. That's 82% against Israel. The UN Commission on the Status of Women named Israel as the only country in the world that violated women's rights. This makes a mockery of UNESCO. It makes a mockery of the United Nations. Audrey Azoulay, the new head of UNESCO, is making great strides, and we thank her for that. She is correcting this. and we applaud her for what she's doing. But after decades of bad behavior at UNESCO, its reputation cannot be cleansed overnight, especially when this virus of anti-Semitism still runs throughout the entire body of the United Nations. Here in the UN, Iran, against all the rules of the UN Charter, promises to destroy a member state, Israel. And the United Nations says nothing. It does nothing. It is silent. From the UN to the German police, once again, we hear only silence. The Jewish people learned the lesson of silence. We learned that lesson the hard way. What has to happen before the UN and the governments of Europe finally react? Nazi salutes, attacks on Jewish restaurants and synagogues, Jews murdered. This must stop now. This is our response. We will never be silent again. And you should never be silent either. The newest form of anti-Semitism is the hatred of Israel. We hear people say, I have no problem with Jews. It's only Israel. Who do they think lives in Israel? Martians? A perfect example of this is the BDS movement, which stands for boycott, divestment, and sanctions against Israel. Remember, BDS does not seek peace. It seeks the elimination of Israel. Yet politicians look the other way and won't call what BDS really is. The World Jewish Congress was created in 1936 to warn the world against the dangers coming out of Nazi Germany. The world ignored that warning, and 60 million human beings died, and an entire continent was almost destroyed. Please do not ignore my warning today. Do not ignore my warning. Thank you all.